So I'm going to just wait the customary half a minute to see that the picture is seen. Okay, picture is seen. So welcome. Hello everyone. This is Claudia. This is another Christmas live stream or Christmas watercolor live stream. I'm in the process of doing lots of Christmas presents for my friends and my family. I'm drawing a lot and also, you know, cards. But I like to live stream some of them. I don't have, unfortunately, the time to do all. Today, so I hope everybody's okay and everybody's hearing me, of the people that are watching. So today what we're going to do is paint a little gnome. It's very funny that gnomes are some of the funniest things that I always associate with Christmas, like these little gnomes that are in these tiny burrows, and you know they live their lives, and you know they're just having fun, and like I am a lot inspired by the Dutch, and by the Dutch way of drawing, right? And in Holland they call them kabouters. Now don't ask me why they're called kabouters, because oh, hi Florin, hi Malo, everybody's hearing me, that's nice. Okay, so kabouters, and I've had some books about them, and they're very nice. They're also not safe for work, to be honest. Like some of these people that draw these kabouters, they draw them in very interesting poses, but I found them very funny. Today I'm gonna use this kuretake brush, and I'm just going to draw first. So it's gonna be a tree here, some Christmas decorations and presents, and then the kabouter in the middle doing its thing. Yeah, so this is what we're gonna draw. So it should be quite simple and easy watercolor to follow. Just have a tree and I mean the guy, the kabouter, is not that difficult to draw. I initially thought it's going to be, but actually no, it's not that difficult. And the tree is a bit wonky because, well, it's a kabouter tree. And it has lots of decorations in it. Maybe there's some Dutch people around that can tell us about what does kabouter means, because for me it looks like it sounds like a name of something that they usually do, but I have no idea. And I actually didn't research this. I only researched there some books from some very well-known Dutch artists about kabouters, because apparently everybody enjoys to actually draw them and have fun with them. So yeah, there were some books about the kabouters in their habitat, aka kabouters in their awesome burrows doing things and baking goods, and they look like your regular grandma and grandpa, and apparently even the kids are like that. Even the kids are looking sometimes old. They always have beards or long hair. Like if they're ladies, they have either long hair or the hair in a bun. And always baking cookies and just having fun and playing pranks on each other. So yeah, that's okay. This was for the tree, and I'm going to switch now to Micron pen. Let me find the 03. It's right in front of me. I'm going to do the Christmas ornaments. and they're all in a box. The box sits like, I guess everybody keeps their Christmas ornaments in a box, so I'm just going to assume that that's okay. By the way, did anybody already start making their Christmas tree? Is it that time already? Because in theory, we should have already started, but I didn't. Obviously. Otherwise, you would have seen the Christmas tree in the video. But yeah, I was planning somewhere next week. I'm going to take some time to make my nice Christmas tree. I bought a lot of Christmas decorations that are plastic. Yeah, I know, plastic. But because I have cats, I don't want them to... Okay, a kabouter is a kabouter. That's just the name. Okay, so there's no hidden meaning to the name kabouter. Which sounds like it's a good idea. Okay. I'm changing between a 0.8 and a 0.3 because I'm realizing that the box needs to be a tiny bit more than the Christmas decoration. But their signature, what do they usually wear? They wear this pointy hat that can have, well, it's usually pointy, but it could have a little bit more embellishment. And these long clothes that they wear. What else do they wear? They have their beard. So the male kabouters always have a beard, and the female kabouters have their braided hair. Look really pretty. They always have red cheeks and everything, so that's always nice. Or it could be a signal that they're always drinking something. That could also be. Okay, so you like a reinforced feed? Yes, I do. I do. I think, yeah, he also uses watercolor on his, let's say, kabouters, and that's where I took this type of inspiration from. I did not draw it just like he drew the kabouters because he has very detailed work, let's put it this way. I guess I need another year to try only kabouters so that I can get to that level. But I took the general idea and the, you know, the jolly, let's be jolly and celebrate Christmas. Why not? In this time of year, like, I think we should be celebrating a little bit more. I mean, I'm super grateful we're all still here and we're all still having fun and watching. So, you know, let's celebrate Christmas. And I know we're probably going to have to celebrate Christmas being alone or only with the immediate close family because, well, we can't visit friends and what we usually do, like the big Christmas dinners. But I'm still happy even celebrating it just with my husband and my close family. I am grateful that we are still here and that we are healthy and that we can celebrate Christmas. It's actually really nice. So let's talk a little bit about composition because this is really important when you're doing something like this. So there are some things. I wanted the kabouter to be in the first plane and the box, and then in the back there should be the tree, and already see I made a mistake, and the presents that I'm going to draw here. And yeah, it took me a while to figure what would look nice, because I was trying to make them all too much cramped, and that wasn't really working. So anyway, let's draw this kabouter, and then we start painting, and then we're gonna draw the presents and everything. Yeah. So he has a pointy hat. And I drew his that he has a little moon that dangles from here. And he has this big nose, and it's usually red with yellow and stuff. Has some nice funny big ears. I'm gonna make him a mustache, because why not? He should have a mustache together with his beard. And his beard is super long. This is where a master, I always say, a master of drawing would have had all sorts of thingies around it. But we're doing the easy thing. We're doing the easy kabouters. So, why am I saying that this is easy to draw? Because theoretically, there's only big shapes here. There's nothing anatomically, let's say, correct or anything about kabouters. Only proportions wise. You know, proportions wise it is, but other than that, like, his body is just covered in clothing. And maybe I'll switch back to this one, 08. And he just has some shoes there. So I believe that with the just simple shapes, like there's a pointy head here, there's a really round head, beard, and just a slight, like a hand here. I think you can get away with anything. He had some patches on his clothes, which makes the clothing much more interesting than just a normal thing. In the designs I was watching, the clothing, it can be very elaborate, but I'm not that good with clothing yet, so you know, I'm gonna keep it simple. This is a piece of art that I believe can be basically reproduced by anybody, because it's super simple shape. So the tree has simple shapes, it just stacks on each other, so wavy. There's the Christmas decorations, which are round, and the kabouter, which is like super simple shapes to do. So please feel free to do your own version and your own coloring, and then you can even make more with more coloring, right, in different colors, and you can make them smaller or even from the front. What I saw in other people's drawings is that they make the hat much more onto the face, and then only the eyes are visible and the big nose. So, and then the rest, the mouth and everything, gets covered by the beard. So in theory it should be super simple to draw, right? So let's start drawing. What I'm going to draw first is the Christmas tree, because that one has a lot of the color. So I'm going to use let me see, I probably need a smaller brush because I need to go around this. I'm gonna use the olive green, and then I'm going to come in with lots of olive green, maybe lots of water. I'm mixing on my palette. And then I'm gonna use some darker green to add like accents. For example, some perlin green. I'm gonna use as just accents, and I'm just making a big puddle because probably I'm gonna need it, but I'm not gonna use everything out of it. Okay. It would have been easier if I would have not had to go around the Christmas decorations, but we're just gonna try to do it. Okay. And here is where I will concentrate a lot. So forgive me if I don't watch the chat or what's being said, because I need to really concentrate to go around the objects. Don't want to make any mistakes here. I'm gonna do the objects afterwards. So it's the first time I'm using this particular pen for watercolors, and what I'm noticing already is that the color bleeds. The color bleeds, the black. But good thing about it, even if it bleeds, is that it actually creates much more interest because this is a Christmas tree. So it's okay. It makes it more interesting. Okay. I'm gonna leave some parts more lighten up. We're gonna darken some other parts of it, maybe with some nice dark gray or black afterwards. So I don't want to do the one right next to it because it still needs to dry. So I'm just going to do this part here. We're going to come back to it. I think the hardest part about this one is that you need to go around all the objects. So you don't want to color them with green, because any other color on top of it will just look very well, will not have any shine. So I think that's the main issue here. So with the pens, yeah, I think don't do like me. Always try your pen maybe in advance. So far, what I've noticed is that the Micron pens are really waterproof. And since I thought that this pen is done by the same company, I had the impression that this will be also pretty waterproof, to be honest. Apparently it's not, but that's okay. We can live with it. I only did the Christmas tree with it, so it's okay. We will make it work. I'm trying not to touch the edges anyway with lots of water, so it will reduce the bleed quite significantly. So I'm adding the dark colors. So this is really nice. The perlin green really granulates nicely, like what I'm noticing. I'm adding a little bit more here. I don't want it to dry out way too light. Granulating watercolors. Okay, let's do this one, and then we'll be back to do the middle one. So my research on kabouters has yielded the following. Is usually they have really muted colors all around, so not really bright colors. And it's a combination of red, blues, gray, and green. They also have yellow, especially the women. They have nice yellow, more yellow orangish dresses, which can be really nice. Male kabouters have usually blue, green, and red. Yeah. Of course, this being a fantasy thing, it can technically have any color you want. Hi, Andre! Oh, you're here! Woo! More people on the stream. How is it going? Are you preparing for Christmas? Are you making your Christmas tree already? I'm asking everybody here. Okay. So you can notice that I stopped doing the sweets series. That's because it makes me wanna eat more sweets. I know, it's weird. I just been eating so many sweets lately because, well, it's Christmas and everybody's stressed and everybody's like on the edge. So kind of eating sweets makes it more nicer and bearable. But I noticed also that I'm gaining weight because I'm eating more sweets. So I've decided I'm just gonna eat some more next to the Christmas holidays, and I'm gonna keep a low profile a little bit because, yeah, they're nice on the spot when you're eating them. They're really nice, but when you see the kilos piling up, then it's not fun anymore. So yeah, I've also decided to not condone anymore the use of sweets. I'm gonna leave that one there like that. I'm gonna go more darker here. So we're not gonna use that many sweets in our drawings anymore for Christmas, which is okay. Which one do I do? This one. I do middle one. You notice I didn't do any dark parts here. It's because I want to create like so that it's not super flat. Yeah. So normally when you create Christmas trees, then you would have a variation of dark greens and light greens and so on. However, this type of Christmas tree has a very special shape, which is more blocky, and so dealing with the blockiness can be quite tricky when you're trying to make it not flat, I would say. So we're gonna just add lots of texture in it to prevent the flatness once it's dry. So we're gonna add lots of lines and lots of things around it. But I'm just gonna have one part darker and then the other so that it creates also contrast. Awesome. So now the last part. So, what's your story with your kabouter? Okay, that's a good one. That's a good one. Like, what's the story? So, this kabouter, he is working in the mine the whole day, and he is like surrounded by, you know, darkness and everything every day, and it's okay because his community needs the coal and all the other gems that he mines. However, he needed for his home to feel a bit more cheerful than, you know, the dreary mine. So he decides to decorate his Christmas tree with lots of color, not the type of colors that he has on his work, but like lots and lots of colors and so on. So he enjoys to feel like more alive when he's at home. So he's creating this Christmas tree and he's decorating it, and he has lots of decorations around. He's having really lots of fun decorating. And his wife, because there's gonna be some smoke around, his wife is actually cooking on the other room. Fun fact, it's cooking a nice cake for Christmas and other baked goods, like they're making some nice bread for the Christmas roast. And he's like, I'm gonna make the Christmas tree and my wife's gonna cook. Yeah, because he knows that his wife can cook better than him. That's why. Yeah, don't take it. For me, it's the other way around. Like, my husband cooks much better than me, so I wouldn't dare be the one doing the Christmas parts. But he was like, I want to be in a cheerful mood, right? And he lives in a very close-knit community. There's only 20 or so other kabouters in the village that he lives in. They do have some kids, but they're still young. But he's still buying like presents for them, even though they're young and they might not remember, because secretly he wants to use the presents that he's buying for the kids. So yeah, they live in the middle of the forest, and their houses are inside tree trunks, very old tree trunks. So because they're tiny, it's okay if they live in the tree trunks. Don't worry. And what else can we say about this kabouter? What's his name, maybe? Huh? Do you guys think? When I tell you this story, what name do you guys think of? Or is there any name that comes to mind? I'm just gonna mix some different green. I don't know why the name Pete comes to mind, but don't pin me on it. I might be having... I might be in the middle of the Zwarte Piet, so that's why. But he needs to have a funny name. No, it needs to have a funnier name than Pete. Okay, let's vote. Let's see. What would names be for kabouters? I didn't read whether they have family names or not, right? But if they're in a close-knit community, why would they need family names? Maybe they should be, maybe his name is George. Yeah, George is maybe a better name than Pete. I'm adding some texture for the Christmas tree. George the Kabouter. By the way, is George an actual Dutch name? That's a question for the Dutch people watching here. Is this actually a Dutch name? It would be funny. It's not. What other names would be good for kabouters? They don't have like complicated names, right? Okay. So George sounds nice. Good. Then this kabouter's name is George. And his wife's name is Martha. And Martha is making really nice cookies. George and Martha. Yeah, that's gonna be the kabouters. I'm not saying what I'm doing here with the lines. It's what you should be doing. I just feel like it needs a little bit of texture, because otherwise the Christmas tree will be too flat. So I'm using a really tiny brush to add these lines. But I imagine they are living a very simple life, right? They go to work, they come home, eat, take care of the kids. They're probably reading in the evening, because I'm not sure that the kabouters have... George the Kabouter is a nice name, yeah. George the Kabouter. I'm not sure the kabouters have TV or anything, right? So they might be reading a newspaper. That would be fun. And usually kabouters are not very, let's say, all that brave or adventurous people. They like to be cozy in their homes, right? Doesn't mean that they don't like to read about other people's adventures and other people's, let's say, goings in the world and fighting evil and so on. So this is probably what they're reading. They're reading probably some fantasy books and just having fun. And now, because it's Christmas, they're probably drinking mulberry wine. They're probably having quite some fun, right? I'm always thinking that they have all the red faces, probably because they're somewhere in the forest. It's pretty cold, so you know the cold is biting. That's why they're also dressed like that, right? Unless they are living somewhere in the mountains where it's more cold, I don't see why they would be dressed like that. So that must be the reason why, which is nice, right? So they're very adept at cold weather. Let's put it this way. I'm not sure how they would fare on summer weather, or like normal weather. I mean, they have these big beards and everything. It really looks like they're just very much adept at braving the cold than being in the summer on the beach. But that doesn't mean they're not allowed to be on summer on the beach. And now I am doing this. Okay. Really making the tree not look flat. Yeah, I think I succeeded. It's a funny tree. With lines and everything. Hey, we are living in a fantasy world, okay? So let's not forget that. It's nothing nothing against anybody, but yeah. I'm going to have the tree trunk a bit here. The tree trunk is brown-ish. So let's try to see. This is not such an elaborate, I mean, I want to make it more accessible because flowers are nice when you look at them and with the sweets, but I was wondering if I could possibly make something that everybody could draw, right? Like something super simple for Christmas, because you don't want to have super complicated things. Okay. Gonna leave that one, and I'm gonna work on his helmet. No. How do you call this? Hat? Is it a hat? Is it not a hat? And I'm gonna go with red for the hat, and I'm gonna go with blue for his clothes, and the patches are gonna be nicer lighter blue, and the shoes, should I do the shoes the same color as the hat? Yeah, let's do the red. I'm gonna take some Pyrrole Scarlet from Daniel Smith. It's nice. Cool. And maybe mixing. Now I understand. Okay. So let's do his red helmet. Hey, this guy needs color in his life, because working in the mine the whole day, that's not pretty, man. That's not pretty at all. So he's much into color and, you know, enjoying himself a little bit. And the way I'm gonna add something darker is I'm going to try my hands at, let's say, maybe some Payne's gray. Yeah. If I drop in some gray here and there, theoretically should make this darker. Of course, pending that I smooth it out. Okay. The question I always have is, where do they take the clothing? I'm just gonna go and assume that they don't have a kabouter shop, but that they're making their own They're making their own clothing. I think that's so much cuter. Probably they're sewing themselves, and they probably have some mountain sheep that they grow. That's where they make the wool and everything. And they probably use forest fruits to dye all of the nice ones, right? Okay, so I'm going to let that dry. I have no idea if it's probably going to dry much lighter. We're gonna do this one on blue, and this one I'm gonna do some cobalt blue, and I'm gonna take a little bit, I'm gonna darken it up. So cobalt blue and with a little bit of gray, and that will darken up the this part. I'm going around the patches. Maybe I'll make the patches yellow. Yeah, that might be actually much better idea. It's a nice blue. I'm gonna add the shadows later on. I'm just needing to go around his beard and everything. And this time I'm using a number 5 brush. Oh, I'm going a bit around. It's okay. We'll fix the ornaments, not a problem. Okay, let's try more darker blue for the shadows, and it's gonna be, we have shadows here and here. My darker blue is called, I don't know, I cannot pronounce it. It's iridescent blue. That is a really dark blue, probably the darkest blue I have. And no, we're not talking about indigo, because indigo is not really blue, is it? And otherwise I would have mixed a much more darker blue by doing cobalt blue with some more gray. So here around the, I'll do all the little threads from the Christmas decorations. I'll do them with gold. That's gonna be nice. I'm gonna let this one dry out, and this looks really nice. This makes a really nice contrast with the blue. And hopefully this part is not, okay. We're gonna have the red there on his shoes. And I'm gonna add, of course, my darker shade once things have dried a bit, because I don't want them to run into each other. Okay, I'm going to utilize this. I'm going to add the tree trunk needs also quite some. And I'm gonna add kind of similar textures all around the kabouter. Yeah, so that's gonna be really interesting. Okay, so George the kabouter, does he have kids? Yes, he does. He has 2 kids, and both of them are boys, and probably they're gonna take after his dad, and they're gonna go and work in the mine, and that's gonna be super nice. What else should we do with the red? We probably want the bow here red, right? Yes. But they're still in school, so not yet having to go on to work on the mine. But let's talk about, like, what other jobs will they be for kabouters? What could they possibly have as jobs? Probably cooks. Some of them are cooks because they need to cook a lot of good food there, right? They probably have a mayor, so that's a job. They probably also have to have woodworks, right? I mean, woodsmiths and carpenters and so on, because they're living in the forest, so you probably need all of that. So carpenters, miners, woodwork, cooks, definitely cooks. What else could it be? Kabouters. They're probably gonna have a few teachers because the kabouters, some kabouters need to stay in school, right? So they will probably have to have that one. Yeah. What else? What other jobs would there be? Would a kabouter have a sheriff? That's my question. Would they have a need for a sheriff? Like, do you think that there's, let's put it this way, crime among the kabouters? If so, what would those be? No, that would be funny. Okay, let's think about it. Crimes amongst the kabouters, what could they be? He stole my pie. Probably that will be one of the things that they will say. Like, this guy stole my pie and I don't have a pie anymore. I don't know. What crimes would those be? Oh, I really like the blue. And there's some nice blooming around, so that's really makes it nice. We're gonna do the patches with more yellowish color. Okay, it's not really yellow, it's more orangey, because I like to have more orangey colors. They will steal each other's hats. Oh yeah, that would be, yes. They'll probably have these hats competitions and these mustache competitions. So the crime will be, you steal each other's hats, and oh, that will be fun. So that the competitor doesn't win anything. Imagine like the competition. It will be a fun competition, like the mustache competition or the beard competition. That will be so fun. The beard competition. I'm thinking it will be fun. I never had beard, so I don't know. I'm just hoping that people in this chat that had a beard before can attest to the fact that beard competitions will be fun. I know that some of my colleagues and some of my male colleagues, they're really proud of their beard, especially when November come and they can do the Movember, or I don't know, all of these bearded moments that they do. I know that they really enjoy that. So yeah, that would be fun. I'm gonna try to attempt to do the face a bit. So it's gonna have some yellow, and then I'm going to drop in the red. So mustache competition, and they would use all sorts of stuff to care for their mustaches, like honey from the very famous honeycomb, where they had to fight the bear to get the honey. That would be fun. What else would they put in their beard? Would they color in their beard? That's the question I have. Probably not. They will be proud of their white beards or colored beards. The glove needs to be green, I think. More of a darker green. And they would steal each other's hats, and then they have to be put in jail, right? Because they stole each other's hats. Ah, that would be so fun. How would jail be? I think the biggest thing for a kabouter is not giving food for a while, as in for a day. Even a day without food, probably for a kabouter, that would be like super, super terrible. So I was just like trying to imagine what the punishment would be, because anyway, they're in the middle of the forest and so on. So it would be like they have a feast and they're not invited. That would be like the punishment for getting this. It would be so fun. Okay, I think his nose needs a little tiny bit more red, because usually kabouters' noses are really bright, really funny. Yeah, and also their ears are really bright red. The only thing that are kind of exposed onto the outside world, right? If you think about it, is they have a big beard, they have a hat, they have everything super long, so they don't need much. I'm gonna need to leave the face to dry before I do the beard, before I attempt to do the beard, because, well, that's stuff. So I'm gonna leave stuff to dry before I add lots of lines and stuff, and hatching with watercolor. Now let's get busy with some of these other parts. The box is yellowish with brown, so I'm gonna do that. It's gonna be nice popping against everything. And the underneath one is going to be much more concentrated color than the flaps. And I'm gonna go around here. So, Kabouters. In all the stories when I was young, there wasn't that much about Kabouters. I mean, they were usually not the main story. They weren't part of the main story. They were just like helpers. For example, look at Snow White and the dwarfs. The dwarves are just there to basically help Snow White and make her look good in a way, right? They're not really the star of the show. It would be funny if we would be able to make them the star of their own show. Like, show us their lives, what they do. I think they will be much famous today, this day and age, on TikTok or any other social media platform. Because let's face it, they're funny. So this is what I imagine Kabouters to be. I imagine them that they're funny. I imagine that they always tell funny jokes or they make pranks on each other. So I think they would be perfect for TikTok. TikTok Kabouters. And what else would there be? Yeah, that would be funny to live stream, like Kabouter live stream on YouTube. Yeah, that would be fun. From the middle of the forest, in the middle of winter. I think the Kabouter wives would make great live streamers of cooking shows. That would be super nice. They will make like this really fancy baking and stuff. I mean, I wish I would know fancy baking as well, but I don't. Okay, this is a nice one. And then all of the globes are just going to be reds, blues, yellows. Yeah, red, blues, and yellows. So let's go make some nice reds. I'm gonna add to them. We can add some doodling at the end for the globes and for everything, right? It doesn't have to be now. Now we're just adding color. We're adding shadows and other things, making everything nice. So 1, 2, 3. Let's see. Yellows. I'm using too big of a brush for this, so I sometimes go around, but it's okay. I can always come back with the black and redo that one. What else would it be? Yellow. Put this one down. This one should be yellow also. And now let's do blue, cobalt blue with a smidge of gray. Okay, that went way too that went into Payne's gray. I'm just trying to make a nice blue color, but I went way too dark. So if you didn't know how to make Payne's gray is cobalt blue with gray. And for some reason I always thought that Payne's gray means really not pain but pain. However, apparently that's just a name. It's a pretty common, I guess, English name, English under name. Although I don't know, but why would you call your kids Pain? I don't know. I see no reasoning for it. 16 watching. Okay. I'm going to add way more details. Do not worry. Now let's just make these ones down. I'm gonna make some of them orangey. Maybe drop a tiny hint of red in it. Yeah. Some of these yellow ones will benefit from some red in it. Okay. So remember this, it never will look nice from the beginning. You cannot ever in watercolor make something that looks the perfect color from the beginning, unless you're doing like this fancy landscape that has very limited palette, and then with just a few brush strokes you can make it. But when you're doing illustrations like this, do keep in mind that it's okay, because usually watercolors require way more layers than just normal. Realizing that this painting might take a while. It's not going to take longer. Okay. I'm going to take some of this, some Potter's pink. Gonna add it here. And I'm gonna add highlights at the end. Highlights are always needed. The painting is too tiny, like whenever I see somebody making really nice painting in a video, and they're like they can get really detailed things, I have to remind myself that they're like blowing everything up. They're making things much bigger than what they normally are, and this is how they can get the brush around to really make the details in. So the way I'm working here is, this is a tinier piece, so details will be lost, and that's okay, because then you can add them later on, right? I need to do this one with a yellowish. And now the question is, what are your favorite Christmas decorations? Are they the globes, or are they something differently? I do remember, it's so funny, when I was young and I was making Christmas decorations, as in when I was decorating the tree, it used to be also that you used to put like real candles inside the tree, which now I would think is like a fire hazard, because maybe you shouldn't have real candles inside the tree. But back then we used to have real candles inside the tree, but we never put them on, which is weird, right? Like you would always go to the trouble of adding candles to the tree, but you would never put them on. I would assume because my mom would have realized that it was a fire hazard, so you know, you shouldn't put them in. But like, I don't know if in your countries it used to be that you had candles in the trees. I'm assuming that the Dutch had the same, right? The Dutch probably had the same candles in the tree. This will be yellow, or yellowish. Let's do this yellow. Candles in the tree. I remember even going to church and there were candles in the trees. That was like... I'm testing to see if this one has dried out. Yes, it did. So I'm going to add quite some darker colors to the mix. I'm gonna mix a darker red and I'm going to add some lines. So Melo says, yeah, we had real candles and they were on, and that was scary. Yeah, I can imagine that that was scary to have the candles on in the Christmas tree, like the most flammable thing that you could possibly have in the house, and then you put real candles in it. Like, what? At least now it's nicer with the just normal lights, right? But yeah, like why would you? No. You notice that I don't like anything that is super flat, so I'm just adding lines here and there. That's fine. Adds to the texture of the patterns and everything. Yeah, this is a funny texture for this guy. Let's see if I can add any texture for this one. Maybe some brown for the box. I sometimes even forget that I am in a live stream, and I forget that I need to speak. This is how relaxing it is for me to actually be in this live stream. It's amazing how relaxing just painting can be. And this is something that I think everybody should be doing sometimes, because we can really get inside our heads, and sometimes we become like super stressed. I'm not sure that is a nice feeling to have, to be super stressed all the time. I will do the beard, and the beard is just like super gray, so it's going to have some gray streaks. Maybe I'll use the paint gray. Yeah, I'll use paint gray. And I'm just going to give the illusion of the beard. AKA, I'm not gonna fill anything, all the stuff in. Makes no sense. So, what I like about sometimes live streams, to watch other people live streams, is because I enjoy to also color in the same time as the other people. Even though I'm not doing the same thing, it's just listening to their voice. Sometimes nice. So let's try to do that. Let's try to make up a story, like an adventure. Kind of Lord of the Rings-ish adventure. Right? Okay, let's go for it. So this kabouter, when he was young, he still had a beard, he still had a white beard, but he had a shorter beard. That's the difference between young kabouters and old kabouters. They have a short beard versus a longer beard, right? And he was quite adventurous. He thought he had an idea that he's gonna go to the city, and he's gonna really you know, I'm not gonna say party all day, but he's gonna make a name for himself. And he was like, I'm gonna go to the city, and that was the dwarf city. He's a gnome, but he wanted to go to the dwarf city. So, you know, he starts to pack up his bags, and his parents are like, oh, don't go, it's a dangerous journey, all that stuff. And he's like, no, I'm super resolute that I'm going to go, and like this is what I want to do. So the parents were like, whoa, I'm not gonna stop you because, well, it's your life and so on, but please be careful. So he starts packing, and then with a small backpack, he's like deciding, that's it, I'm going to take this, it's gonna be what I'm taking with me, and we're gonna go to the big city. But to reach the city, he has to go through the enchanted forest, of course. So he starts his journey in the enchanted forest. He was still young. By the way, this is the story of how he met his wife. That's why. If you were wondering, right? So he was still young. Really funny dude. And he starts his journey. And during the day was all fun. He enjoyed walking. He was going towards the edge of, his little village. He walked, and at some moment, it starts to get dark because, you are in the mountains, and you should be careful in the mountains because it can get dark very fast. Like all of a sudden, the sun goes behind the mountains and it's like, boop, nothing. And then he realized that he didn't reach, any point where he could seek shelter. So he's like, well, it's okay. I'm gonna be able to just make a fire in the middle of the forest. And he sets about making the fire, and he had these sausages in his backpack, and he was like, I'm gonna make myself some nice dinner, and there's gonna be sausages and all the goodies. And what he didn't realize is that maybe he shouldn't have opened the fire in the middle of the forest, because there are all sorts of, animals and other things in there that would really like to, partake in a little bit of parts of gnome. Let's do that. So he was like frying his sausages there, right? And then all sorts of animals start coming in, and he's like hearing the wolfies in the distance, like howling, like, oh. Then he's like, oh, that's okay. They still look like they're far away. I'll be fine, But he starts to get a little bit scared, right? And he's a little bit like, ooh, I wonder what's going to happen now, because I'm all alone. He realizes he only had his pickaxe as his as a weapon, because, well, that's the only thing that a kabouter would wear. He's now considering, should I go back? But then he realizes, well, it's in the middle of the forest, so in the middle of the night I might get even more lost. So he decides that it's going to be just fine. The wolfies are still at a distance, and they're not gonna just come yet. So the winter progresses, and he gets more and more scared. He's really trying to sleep, but he can't, because, of course, he keeps hearing the wolfies that are actually getting closer and closer to his location. So, sleeping basically with one eye open, he's like getting jumpy at every noise and everything in the forest. And then all of a sudden, like from right next to him, he hears like this loud noise, and he's like, okay, I'm done for. Like, the wolfies have reached me, and this is probably what's going to happen. And, you know, he prepares for his last stand. But, you know, there was this bush there, and he's seeing this bush move, and, you know, there's like, what's going on? What's that? Is there somebody trapped? And then all of a sudden, out of the bush, we're talking about George, you know, stumbles in a stumbling motion, girl kabouter, which turned out was also out for an adventure, also to the same city. She just left a little bit later on. And her name was Martha. So he makes her acquaintance, and they're like, at least now there are two of them. So at least they're going to go a little bit less scared, but with the two of them. Although he feels very protective of her. Of course, it was love at first sight, because this is what usually happens, right? You get love at first sight, and he's like very protective of her, but he doesn't know how to tell her that he's really liking her and all that. But, you know, they spend the night. He shares his sausages with her. And in the morning, you know, barely have slept or anything. But they decided they're gonna go together to the big city. And it's better if they are with two, because then they can actually take turns in sleeping and guarding the fire and all that stuff. And sometimes it's also much more fun with two people, because, well, you can have fun and you can tell jokes and all of that cool stuff. Notice that I'm doing presents here, but I'm not yet drawing any lines. I'm going to do that afterwards. Okay. Presents are a combination of greens and blues and yellows. I like to keep the red for the accents, like for the bows and things like that. So that's why. This is gonna be a green one. Okay, so they go on this adventure together, and they have to, you know, walk a lot of time, like a few days through the forest. They encounter all sorts of animals, but none of them as dangerous as they were thinking initially. So they learn how to survive in the wilderness. They learn, but, you know, after a few days and so on, their supplies start to dwindle a little bit. So now they actually have to start hunting or make traps, because they're still like about 3 days away from the dwarf city. So they probably need to, you know, make some food and spring a trap. So turns out that Martha is very good at springing traps, because her father used to be the forest keeper in the village, where that's also one of the other stories. The father used to be the forest keeper on the gnome village. So he taught her how to, you know, catch all sorts of animals and basically just be self-sufficient in a way, right? So she catches for them some rabbits, and she knows quite some, let's say, some roots that will be very good to eat. And she makes a stew. And of course, George's heart is swelling even more because, well, she can cook, right? So, you know, this is like love always goes through the stomach for a kabouter. So let's not forget that. Love always goes through the stomach. So, you know, in the end, they arrive at the city, at the dwarf city, and they treat it a little bit more like a vacation. They go around, they, you know, browse the shops, they marvel at the craftsmanship of dwarves, because dwarves are very much master craftsmen, right? Kabouters are tinier, they're not really crafting anything, but dwarves can make really nice jewelry and really nice nice things. So they were really enjoying that. And then they go to the guild in the city saying, okay, now we're Kabouters, we're looking for work, what do you have for us? And the people in the guild, they're a little bit more like, yeah, but you guys are super tiny, so, you know, what can you do? And the guys are like, hey, like, stop with the discrimination here. Like, even if we're tiny, we still know how to do stuff. Like, we can be very good cooks, we can also mine, because he was a miner just like the dwarves. And the dwarves are like, yeah, leave the mining to us, we kind of know what we're doing, but if you want to work for a while, you can work for us as a cook, right? Both of you, so you can work in town as cooks. So they go about it and they start working as cooks, obviously. And the dwarves are really impressed because, well, Kabouters, they know how to cook, man. They know how to cook. I mean, dwarves are pretty much all about the mining and the craftsmanship, but Kabouters know their food, right? Yeah, well, they're a bit gourmands, so they really impress the dwarves with their cooking, and especially with their cooking of sweets and all. That was really nice, what they were cooking. And they even got recognized so much that even the king of the dwarfs, you know, he wanted to make the Kabouters cook for him at his banquet. So he had this banquet where he was throwing it for his nobles, and yeah, then he just called these guys and were like, okay, can you cook something nice for us and have a little fun? And the Kabouters did manage to do very well, so they earned the reputation with the king. And they actually together they lived almost a year there in the dwarf city. The only problem in the dwarf city was that even though everything was super nice and you could get anything that you wanted, they were missing their families. The dwarfs are a little bit more colder people, let's put it this way. They are not so welcoming at all of foreigners, and they didn't really manage to do many friends in there. And they were missing their families, and they were missing their family dinners and everything. And Christmas was coming, so, you know, they decided like, we saw the life in the city, we saw what we could do, but I think we should return back to our family because our family is more important than anything that we might have here. So yeah, that was their story. So they traveled back. They had you know, quite some nice stuff gained in their travels, and you know, they went back to their home with lots of stories. And Kabouters love stories. They love telling stories, especially to each other. So they had lots of stories to tell, and everybody welcomed them back with open arms in the Kabouter community. And you know, their parents were actually laughing because it turns out that even though they didn't know this, going to the dwarf city is kind of a rite of passage for a lot of Kabouters when they grow old. It's more like a thing that you do to say that you are now an adult, because you actually were traveling alone and trying to take care of yourself alone, learning how to deal with things on your own. You don't have your parents there to always pick things up for you. The funny part was that all the older Kabouters were actually following them when they left the village to ensure that they're safe and sound. So nobody did abandon them or anything. They were actually quite safe even in the middle of the forest, because there was always the older Kabouters watching nearby. But they always liked to leave the kids to do what they wanted, just to see for themselves and to decide for themselves, because that is also important, to decide for yourself. So they arrived back home, and since Marta and George knew each other and they, you know, worked together, and they kind of also falling in love while they were in the dwarf city, you know, they decided that they're going to also get married and live together. And this is the story of how George and Marta met. I hope you liked it. I made it up now. But I always like to think that a lot of people meet because of a shared or common understanding, or things like that. I want to think that there is a reason why people meet in life, and there is a reason why you know, I met also my husband. I like to think that, because it's nicer than just, oh, it's chance. It's a reason. Like, these people were kind of liking the same things and enjoying adventure together, and they were brave together. So this is how, you know, they were dealing with things. So I'm going to have to let these ones dry for now. I'm going to add the lines a bit later on. This one was supposed to be another yellow. Let me do that. Now we're at the phase where I'm going to add lines, and I'm going to also add lots of more details and things like that. But the coloring is basically done. And I think this was a really fun coloring to do. It's not with flowers or anything, and that's fine, right? You don't have to always draw only flowers or anything. It's like for Christmas, this thing is so fun to have have something like this and to receive something like this in your home. That reminds me of my friends that are live, who wants to own this particular awesome one. So is there anybody that wants to own an original? I'm going to add that's interesting. Which one is gonna be? It's gonna be this. There's gonna be some blue here. And I'm going to make it like super. Oh, thank you, Mello. Pretty much like the story of how I met my husband. We were on an adventure together, but we were just playing World of Warcraft. We were in different countries though. He was Dutch and I was in Romania. And we were in the same guild and we were playing for quite a while together. But we didn't know each other, as in we didn't know, he didn't know I was a girl at all. I didn't know anything about him. But then we got to meet. Oh, he found out I was a girl. This is how the story goes. He found out I was a girl, and then he realized that he's been spending all this time playing with a girl. And that he actually enjoyed playing with me and enjoyed talking to me and chatting with me all the time. And he also realized that usually when you're in a game and you're in a game with people and you're playing a game for that many hours, you can't really fake it. So you can't really fake your personality for that long, right? You can't pretend to be somebody you're not for that long. So he realized that actually my personality he liked, and I also liked him, but the funny part is I never understood why he was treating me like a boy until later on, because he kept telling me, you know, how boys can be in games, you know, talking about girls, talking about football and cars and stuff. And I never understood, like, why is he telling me this, because I'm so not interested in like girls and stuff. But he was thinking he's making conversation with a boy, which is very funny. And only after later on he figured out that I wasn't. So yeah, that was something that he's like, ooh, oops. And then we met in Rio, as in he came to Romania to meet me. And it was in the Christmas holiday, actually. I was having Christmas holiday and he was also having his Christmas holiday. And I took him, it's so funny, I took him from the airport and he didn't really know where he was. I just took him in the mountains. We had fun. And the rest is history. It turns out that, yeah, we were quite suited for each other. Both crazy a little bit, both adventurous. Yeah, and at least I had lots of fun. We got to know each other more. And then a year later, we got married in Holland. And then the funny part was on Romania's National Day, we got our anniversary, because we married on Romania's National Day. And we were married for quite a long time. I'm not gonna say the exact number, but there's many years. It's more than 2 ciphers. Let's put it this way, since we've been married. So it's still fun. We're still playing together. We're still doing adventures together, which is what I believe anybody in a marriage should and would be doing. Like, if you don't have adventures with your significant other, they will just get bored. Trust me. I know. I would get bored. So keep the adventure up. And adventure can be anything. Can be watching together something, a series, or doing things together. Like, I like to do art with my husband. He's a much more... He has a different style and a different art style than me. And we still like it. I'm going to do these ones with some red because I forgot the little things. He's so much black and whitey. I always call it black and whitey. But he's not a color person. He likes inking more. Inking and line arting more than coloring. And our styles sometimes differ so much. And I'm really amazed on how, like, we sometimes do a competition, a sketching competition, where we take an idea and each of us sketches the same idea, basically. And a lot of times it's so funny because we come up with wildly different ideas, man. Really different ideas than what you would expect. You would say that if it's the same prompt, you know, you would draw the exact same thing, but I sometimes interpret things very differently than him. And this is what makes it fun, because I'm learning something, I'm getting inspired, he's learning something and getting inspired, and we're both having so much fun. I'm at the last stages of this painting. We have been going for 1 hour and 42 minutes. That's quite some time, I would say. But it's definitely worth it. This is one of those things that you don't want to rush. You don't want to rush. This is yeah, it's a nice one. Okay. Before I sign off and before I declare this painting done, I wanted to thank you, every one of you that have been staying with me for this long. And I thank you so much for, yeah, I'm really grateful to have people that are watching and are getting inspired by what I do, and, you know, maybe a little bit not only inspired but maybe more relaxed and having a bit more fun while watching this. And I hope I managed to get you a little bit out of the mundane that has become this lockdown, and the mundane that has become staying at home. And I made you dream a little bit. Like, you could be that kabouter that goes and have fun, right? We could all be. Of course, on the cold weather, I would not advise we all to go into the forest, right? Because that's not where we should go. But I think I'm ready. I think I've finalized this one as much as I can. Oh yeah, no, I forgot one thing. The smoke had some lines here. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. We're not done yet. But if you guys have any questions before I sign off and I let you have some fun and I let you do your normal things, if you have any questions, please let me know. I'm going to stick around like 1 minute more and I'm going to see whether you have any questions. I really think this is a really nice one, and yeah, I'm really going to enjoy maybe even framing this one. It's a fun one. Not my usual style, not my usual flowers, but it's okay. Thank you, Mello. You had a lot of fun. Thank you, Marlena. You guys liked it a lot, so thank you so much. Bye, Andre, and bye, Florin. And I hope you had fun as well. I'm going to make a decision who can frame this, but I'm yeah, I don't know if I want to part with it, to be honest, because this is a really nice one. I'm really happy with how it turned out. Thank you so much, and I'm going to sign off. Doei!